Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Somerville Historic Preservation Commission. This is our first of our two December meetings. It is December 5th, 2023 at 6:45 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting of the Somerville Historic Preservation Commission will be conducted by remote participation. A recording of these proceedings can be accessed at any time using the registration link at the top of this agenda. And let's see, as I don't know who else out there in the public, but as is our custom, we usually do introductions to let people know who we are as the commission. We have 4 commissioners here tonight. And let me just expand my screen so I can see you all. There you are. Start off with Vice Chair Kelly.
Hi, I'm Robin Kelly. I am the Realtor representative on the commission, and I am also a historic homeowner in Union Square.
Thanks. And Mr. Falvey.
Hi, I'm Ryan Falvey, and I'm a resident of Ward 2.
Mr. Chagnon.
I'm DJ Shagnon. I'm the landscape architect on the commission and a resident of Ward 5.
Thanks. And I'm Eric Parks. I'm resident of Ward 3, historic homeowner and an architect. And we have staff. Why don't you let us know who you are?
I am Wendy Checkwitz, a preservation planner and planner with the Planning, Preservation, and Zoning Division.
Thanks all. Okay, so we have one item on our agenda for tonight, which is, let me pull it up here. Bear with me a second, just lost. Which is a determination of significance under our demolition delay ordinance. For those of you who are tuned in for this and don't know the process, I'll give it a quick nutshell synopsis. The demolition delay ordinance is a 2-step process. We have whenever a building over 75 years old is proposed to be demolished, at least 50% or more of the structure, there's sort of some language about what constitutes demolition, comes to us to first determine whether the building itself is significant, in which this is a case where we don't really consider what might replace it or any of the other things. It's just reviewing the building as it currently is. If we vote no, then the applicant is free to demolish. If we vote yes, then we schedule a public hearing in the next month in which we determine whether it is preferably preserved, which is just a kind of an evaluation of the merits of the building, take a bigger look at the scope and decide whether it ought to be preserved. If we say no, then they're free to demolish it. If we say yes, then it begins what could potentially be as long as an 18-month demolition delay process, where we work with the applicant to determine ways it could be preserved. Or if we come to a conclusion that it can't be, we might review ways that it can be memorialized, or there are all sorts of creative ways of keeping some memory of the building. And if we come to some kind of conclusion on that, often the demolition delay is lifted well before 18 months. So that's a process. The first and only case here is HP 23-000035. Address is 69 Clarendon Avenue. The applicant is North America Development, LLC. The owner is Leah Samanta and Arindam Samanta. And the applicant seeks to demolish a building constructed a minimum of 75 years ago. Is the applicant here tonight?
Will the applicant for tonight's meeting please raise your hand and you will be promoted to a panelist. Mr. Chairman, our attendees have not raised their hand. Give me 1 second. If the applicant for tonight's meeting is here, please raise your hand and you will be promoted. Mr. Chairman, give us 1 second to double check that none of these names are the actual representative for the applicant here before we proceed. Mr. Chairman, why don't you move to minutes while we try to figure out if the applicant is here and having tech trouble, or if we need to get a hold of them and remind them that tonight is their
Okay.
meeting. Thank you.
Sure. We'll put that on hold and jump to the meeting minutes, which I don't know how many folks have had a chance to read those yet. I'll give you all a minute. Haha.
I had no comments or corrections.
I didn't either.
I wasn't at that meeting, so I really don't have anything to
Okay.
add to that.
Yeah, I don't remember anything jumping out at me, but I'm re-skimming it just for a moment. Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. I didn't either. So if that's the case, and I guess we need a motion to approve the minute.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Shagnon, seconded by Vice Chair Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we'll do our roll call. Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Falvey.
Abstain.
Okay, Mr. Shagnon,
Yes.
and I vote yes. I
Will
can never.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Will that work with, for purposes of a quorum?
I was just wondering that. I can never remember how that works.
Do you need me to say, you want me to vote yes? Because of course I'd be happy to if that's gonna have a positive difference. But because I wasn't there, I just figured I'd abstain.
4 minutes, we do not need to vote, so that'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's always tripped me up a little bit. For minutes, we're not really voting to say that they're accurate as much as we are voting to just allow that they become record. So I guess it's a subtle distinction there.
Yeah.
But that's why we're allowed to vote on them even if we weren't there. Okay, do we have an applicant yet for our demo case?
Mr. Chairman, through you, no, we do not. In the state of Massachusetts, we do need both the applicant and the commission to agree for continuances. So you should hear and just proceed as if they were here, because otherwise we do need their permission to continue the item to the next meeting.
Okay, did you do the staff report for that?
Mr. Chairman, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, my internet glitched.
Oh, did you do the staff report on that? Do you want to do just a brief synopsis of it as a faux applicant?
Miss Madison Anthony, one of our newer planners, did the staff report on that, so she is better prepped to be able to give you a quick synopsis.
Okay.
Madison?
All right, so I guess a quick synopsis would be that they're looking to demolish this home, and it served mostly as a working class home. It developed around the time that Teal Square developed. And let me pull back up what I wrote. it was occupied mostly by the Hanson family from the late 1800s to about the early to mid 1900s. And yeah, that's, I guess, a super quick synopsis.
Yeah, no, thanks. I just figured we should have somebody say
Okay.
something. I read your staff report. It's very thorough. Thank you. Well, let us then jump straight to public comment for this. If there are any members of the public who'd like to speak about this, please raise your hand and staff will unmute you.
Yes. Members of the public, raise your hand for a 2-minute public comment period and you will be unmuted. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to give them 1 more second for anyone to raise their hand to be able to speak. All right, there we are. Alan Parmalee, you have been unmuted. You will need to unmute yourself to be able to speak.
All right, am I unmuted now? Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
We hear
Okay.
you.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, I'm not sure. So I live across the street from this house and we have a series of these small single family houses. I think there are 7 on our side of the street and 3 on the other side. And sorry, my dog's jealous I'm talking to you instead of him. And I just wasn't sure, by demolishing is one thing, but is that within that also trying to, I mean, there might be structural or logistic reasons for demolishing because of, I don't know, termites, I don't know what, but is the idea to return the house to its kind of original small, quaint, single family? Are you familiar with the houses at all? They're these tiny little houses all in a row and across the street, and I wasn't sure if yeah, sorry, please, I'm out of I'll be quiet.
Oh, sure. Sorry, I usually just let people finish their comment before we reply to
No,
sort of
that's all. I just they're ancient, small, and that's all I know.
Okay. Thank you. Did we get the address across the street? But for the record, we need your address.
Yeah, we're at 70 Clarendon Ave.
Okay, thank you.
Rachel
other
Carl, yes, Rachel Carlson, you are unmuted. You will need to unmute yourself to be able to speak.
Hello, this is actually Elizabeth Lovance. Rachel Carlson is my wife, so we're both here, but it's Elizabeth Lovance speaking. I'm at 72 Clarendon, also kind of across the street next door to Alan. My concern is kind of about the nature of the neighborhood, that all of these houses were built at the same time. My understanding was that they were to house, kind of to provide like middle class, kind of upper middle class, lower middle class, upper working class housing at a time that that wasn't available, a step up from the triple deckers. And that this street has both triple deckers and then this cluster of small cottages. Our house is actually the picture of the style of house in the new zoning reform pamphlet. My concern is whether or not that particular building has historic significance, that the neighborhood itself, because the facades have been preserved, even though the houses have changed, that, you know, like Alan said, rebuilding the houses are old, they were relatively cheaply constructed. We understand the need to improve housing stock, but making sure that the character of the neighborhood and the character of the lot is preserved, given the unusual nature of this cluster on the western edge of the city.
Thank you.
Alexis Washburn, you have been unmuted. You will need to unmute yourself to be able to speak.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, yes, this is Alexis Washburn. I'm at 76 Clarendon, so also similarly across the street, can see the house the proposed house at 69 Clarendon from my house. And, I guess I just have one question, which is if they plan to demolish it and if that change is permitted, sort of what is allowed to be constructed there in its place. I think without having the applicant here, it's hard to know what's being proposed. And again, I think echoing some of the other comments that were shared earlier, how that will change the streetscape and whatnot. And so I think just questions and concerns about what actually could be built there, considering the character of the homes that are already here. And I think as well, a lot of the homes are, built a long time ago, and so maybe don't necessarily conform to existing zoning codes and whatnot. And so very curious to know what could potentially go there if it is demolished.
Thank you. We'll answer all your questions once the public comments, just to keep things moving smoothly.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be unmuted for a 2-minute public comment period. All right, Mr. Chairman, I do not see any other members of the public with their hands raised. You may close the public comment.
All right, I'll close the public comment portion of the hearing. And to answer your questions, we don't know what the applicant has in mind for it, and staff could probably fill in better, but my understanding, this is likely in the neighborhood residential district, and as it's next door to a triple decker, that they could probably put a triple decker in this location under the current zoning. Is that anyone in staff also working in the zoning section to know that?
Mr. Chairman, through you, all 3 staff planners here also are regular planners. Off the top of my head, I do not know the zoning district, but I would like to let the public know that the Historic Preservation Commission has purview at this time only over the demolition of this building and declaring whether or not it's historically significant or not based off its architecture and those who live there. The zoning issues, what will be built there, things like that at that time are not under the purview. If it is declared preferably preserved at step 2, if it goes there, then there's some looking at what will be built there potentially. But at this time, we do not have purview over that, nor do we deal with the matters of zoning in historic preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the staff for zoning would be better to answer that question, but we are strictly looking at its historic significance in this hearing. Okay, so who has any thoughts in the commission here?
This feels similar in ways to some of our discussions on Glenwood Road with the 2-story mansard Victorians, which I think a lot of people are more easily able to see those as having architectural merit. We often have folks commenting on, that workers' cottages aren't significant enough to be preserved. But of course, this is an unusual collection of them. And I think many of us on the commission feel strongly that workers' cottages are important to preserve. But this is an unusual grouping where we've got 7 or more on the east side of the street, and then these 2 neighboring ones on the west. And they're all kind of together. So while the street has a mix of triple deckers and some larger 2 units and some single families, this particular little grouping, which clearly were all built at the same time, likely by the same builder, are kind of special as a group.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that its connection to the overall streetscape and the look and feel of that stretch of Clarendon is, it's pretty key. And it's a cluster of buildings that gets on an identity more than any one of them seems to have on its own. I think Vice Chair Kelly's reference to Glenwood Street was particularly apt. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments too, and I think as Mr. Shagnon said, as well as Vice Chair Kelly, that the cluster of the houses together, it definitely reminds me of the conversations and the feedback that we had from the neighborhood up on Glenwood Street, and it's great to hear from the neighbors around there and the pride that they have in the neighborhoods when there are houses and kind of neighborhood identities like that. And I think it's something special, and I would absolutely be in favor of preserving something like that. So I support the preservation of the historic, determining its significance.
Yeah, Vince, yeah, thank you. I'm of the same mindset. They all were built together. I'm looking at the 1895 map, so in the course of between 11 years. If you look at on the street, actually, as I scroll down Google Street View, they're actually fairly well, at least mass-wise, fairly well intact, especially on the opposite side of the street there. Obviously, there've been tweaks and changes to the first floors and stuff like that, but there's a lot of continuity there. So, they don't date back to the golden age of the mid-19th century worker houses, but they definitely, in my eyes, sort of were meant for the same type of people, albeit 30 or 40 years later. And the fact that it's intact as a grouping like that, to me at least, merits determination of significance is positive. But I think we've heard from all four of us. Probably could just go right into a vote.
Yeah, I would make a motion that the commission find the property at, gotta make sure I get the address right. Hang on, 69 Clarendon Ave, historically significant.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Shagnon, seconded by Vice Chair Kelly. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? We'll do a roll call. Get my screen back. Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Mr. Shagnon,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. And we need findings. I think we could probably pick up on what we just said in terms of its I think its primary thing is its relationship and its streetscape, its surrounding buildings that were all built at the same time. It's a part of a grouping of identical buildings.
Yeah.
It largely retains its original form and massing and is easily identified as being akin to a number of other properties built at the same time and contributes to that streetscape.
Okay.
I also want to point out, not that I suggest it be part of the findings, but given that the name Hanson popped up a lot in the staff report, and as Chair Parks knows, Henry Hanson Park is being dedicated. I want to make it very clear that from the research I've been able to note, this is not those Hansons. It's at best distant relatives from Norway, from what I can tell. So no connection to that important historical figure that I could find.
Okay. Okay, we have findings. Give a motion to accept those.
I move that we adopt the findings as just discussed.
Second that.
Okay, a motion by Vice Chair Kelly, seconded by Mr. Shagnon. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Do a roll call again. Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Mr. Shagnon,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. So For those in attendance out there in the cyber world, there will be a public hearing scheduled. I'm not sure if it's, staff could tell us, I think it's a month from now, it won't be the next meeting, unless I'm wrong. Is that correct, Wendy?
It will likely either be the first or second meeting in January.
Okay. And it will be a public hearing in which we will hear hopefully from the applicant about, details such as why they want to rip it down. They might present what they plan to put there, though they don't have to. And we'll gauge whether this building is properly preserved or not. So we have it. And I think that's everything on our agenda. Oh, I customarily do a CPC update, and I think there has not been a meeting since our last meeting of the Community Preservation Commission. So the status is really the same. We're reviewing applications for funding for the next funding round. And so that's sort of an ongoing thing. Any questions about that? What's going on with that group right now?
No,
Okay.
then I move that we vote to adjourn.
All right.
Second that.
Seconded by Vice Chair Kelly. By Mr. Falvey. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Mr. Shagnon,
I'll vote yes.
and I'll vote yes. Probably the fastest meeting we've had that actually had anything on its agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was impressive.
So speedy.
But
Makes
thanks
you
everybody.
wonder why we have 2 a month.
Yeah, we probably could have consolidated this month.
No.
Yeah. Cool. Anything else? Any questions? We have a number of staff people here sort of in the background. Any questions or anything else before we take off?
I'd be curious, if we know why Colin resigned. Is there something is there an experience? I'd just be curious about that in terms of retention and attraction of other people. What efforts are in place that way? That was quick. That shouldn't have happened that way, as far as I'm concerned, unless I'm missing something. So do you have anything, Wendy, that you can share about that?
He had a family emergency and had to move out of
Okay.
the state. That was
Oh,
all.
okay.
Nothing,
Okay.
Moving out of
nothing to
state
do
for
with the
particularly
commission.
good reason. Okay. Unfortunate then.
Well, that's something, yeah, that's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that for him.
Yeah. I was gonna say it was something you said, Ryan, but
It wouldn't surprise me, Eric. It's happened before. At work, it happens often, Which I like, right? Because it keeps the commission numbers down or committee numbers down. I'm kidding, of course.
nothing like it. But it's too bad. I'll miss having him. His
Yeah.
brief stint was good. So
Yeah.
we'll wish him the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too bad for him. Great.
Okay.
All right.
Well, see you all in a couple of
Great.
weeks.
Yep.
There's a second meeting on the
Good.
regular time, or how does it coordinate with Christmas and all that?
It is on December 21st at the same time, 6:45,
it-
and there is one item.
Is it the 19th, Wendy, or the
19th.
21st?
19.
Sorry, 19th. Yes, so sorry. That's my
Okay.
fault.
All right. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
19th.
All right.
Very
Thanks,
good.
everyone.
Perfect.
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.